Ooh.
It got jankier!
Nice. I like.
Hey! Can we hear Woke
Hey.
yet? Are we
Oh
still
God, I
broken?
hope so.
Yes, we
Please.
can
Yay!
hear you.
It's a miracle.
I tried
America.
turning it off and turning it back on again. So
All
That
right,
always
let's
works.
see who's in chat. Brumada.
Brumada!
Oh, nice.
Hey! All right, this is this week's What the Heck. We have an entire party here, 6 people and maybe 7 soon. So we'll figure
Nice.
out how to manage all those people on screen and audio and all of that during the episode. Let's do quick intros. I'm Hex7, and I make bad industrial techno. Forrestine, introduce yourself.
I'm Forrestine. I make noisy, droney things.
Bartok.
Hey, I'm Bartok. I also make noisy, drony things, and sometimes I add a drum beat behind them.
I think that's what I said, right? Like industrial. Robbie, you're up.
Hi, I'm Robbie. I make really pretty songs.
You do.
All right.
Yes, he does.
Very much so. Alex?
Oh my God, Bartok, nice to see you. Robbie, nice to see you. I know Forrestine, I know Hex7, but oh my God, it's amazing. And well, of course, I know you, but I'm Alex. I just fuck around. I'm Wokas Messiah, Carl, and I make twitchy, rhythm-heavy patches.
Cool. Yeah. I was going to make a Twitch joke, but I think everyone's on YouTube anyway. So, yeah. So today we're going to talk about a couple modules. We've got a good story about sad clown paintings, and
Tim's not even here yet.
Oh,
well, I'm just setting expectations poorly. And then maybe we'll talk about some other stuff. We got a list of topics, but I want to start us off with the IntelliGel Metropolis, because that's something that's been on our to talk about list for I think 2 weeks. Alex, do you want to give us like what is it? Tell us about it.
yeah, let's go. So I've got 2 Metropolis already before this news came out, and it was a little bit of IntelliGel. There's a little bit of a rumor on the street, right? Like new module coming out from IntelliGel. They do some cool stuff there, like Canada, I think Toronto. I'm not exactly
Vancouver.
sure. Thank you.
They're West Coast.
Here we go. And like Canadians are pretty flippin' smart, and like when they go in to do something, they do it well. IntelliGel is great. So I have been an owner of Metropolis. If you own two Metropolis, they could be Metropoli. Anyway, they dropped the news via Loopop, I think. But this new version, the upgrade version of Metropolis, is hitting the streets. And some one time I was like super excited. So like, I watched the Loopop video, and I was like so confused. Do you know what I mean? No, I admit it. It's like because like I think I know Metropolis. Part of the thing about Metropolis is like it's super immediate, super intuitive, I think, for how my brain works, etc. And so I was looking forward to this thing, and I'm like, whoa, like this is like crazy. Anyhow, like a Muppet, I go like, I'm gonna go off and order it. I'm going to like faith. This is about faith. Anyhow, the thing shipped, landed today. Oh, actually, no, it landed yesterday. Then I took it to the place that I can unbox it and just slapped it in. I got through page 138 of 128 page manual. Okay. And then today I like said, look,
Wait,
what
hold
I'm going
on. Was
to
the
do.
Loopop video like 6 hours or what? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and so like I just went for what can I accomplish in a day, or like a few hours, let's say 3 or 4 hours of reading through what I've got in the manual and what can I get done, knowing that there's another 75% left in the manual for me to explore. Bottom line, I'm loving it. I'm digging it. It's friggin' awesome. I'm happy to answer any questions, the rest of it, or expound on any of those. But like, oh my gosh, yes.
I've got a question here. One of the things that when I first played with the Metropolis was it was so immediate and so visual that you didn't even have to think about music. You could just memorize shapes of the positions of the faders to remember like a cool pattern. And I was afraid that with the Metropolis, by putting this complex computer back end on it, that it would take away from the immediacy of the experience, and that it would just become, you like there's a sequencer called the Usta, and it can do basically everything, but it feels kind of complex. It's the same thing with the NerdSeek. I mean, it can do everything, but it's like, if I wanted a computer, I'd get a laptop and I'd plug MIDI into my modular, and I would just write down every single damn note. So I guess my question is it immediate enough, or is it kind of like menu divey bullshit?
No, I mean that's like I felt the same way. Like because Loopop like covers an insane level of territory in something like 45 or 50 minutes. I had that same genuine concern. And so my approach has been like, can I do what I can do with the Metropolis today, like without the menu diving? So my short answer to that is yes. So if you look at it like I know Metropolis and I tackle Metropolis from a single track, not per function, let's say, approach, yes. And actually that's what I did today. Like that, yeah, that's what I did today. What I didn't do today was like get into like, next level shit. And so I think that's why that's why I think it's kind of actually pretty well designed. Like my first day of takeout, Robbie, it's a really good point. So my short version takeaway is like, yeah, very quickly I went like, yeah, this is how I could do what I'm doing on Metropolis today. This is how I do it on Metropolis. And I ain't menu diving. Cool. What's the next thing? So that's what I'm going to be exploring over the next few days.
And
Yeah.
a follow-up question, if I can jump in. Do you feel that you had to read the manual in order to get the next day familiar with it, because myself, I don't RTFM.
Yeah, I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I got to page 38. Right, because page 38 covers up to page 38, let's say, covers like the basics of, and you're doing like a mapping. I was doing a mapping between Metropolis and Metroplex, and like if you can't navigate like the 4 home screens and you don't understand what a little dot this, that, and the other, I could imagine you will get lost pretty fast.
Okay.
And so I would encourage you can get to page 40 is my guess. And it's not like there's some nice big pictures. It's not all like Nostradamus, do you know what I mean? Or like pages of the Bible, like really small, dense text. Or like you can get past that. Like it's pretty quick. It took me about 15 minutes and a little puppy under my chin to make me feel good. Like I got there in about 30 minutes of reading. But yeah, I actually to answer your question specifically, if I hadn't read that the manual up to that page, I could have easily found myself lost.
Got it.
Yeah, I briefly considered getting that one. I didn't for 2 reasons. Number one, I just got Erica Synth Black Sequencer, which is like exactly how I want to interact with my
Which is
synthesizer.
amazing.
But the other reason is there's really only one killer feature that I thought was completely unique that I couldn't get anywhere else, and that was the accumulator feature of those buttons on the bottom where it basically has a note, and then every time the sequence goes through, it adds like it goes 1 note higher on a certain step. So the sequence kind of mutates itself in a way that you control. And I thought that was fascinating, and it was lovely, but I couldn't justify going in that direction for that one feature.
Totally. I believe that's between the pages of 68 and 85. And so that's my homework for tomorrow morning. I want to go there. So like for me, it's like, can I get to ground level and then can I start taking advantage of some of those really interesting features that takes it to the next level? I'm looking forward to do that in the next couple of days. But yeah, totally.
All right, how many of you are going to buy Metropolis? Robbie, you're out. I'm out because I've got to admit I'm not going to get another sequencer.
Wow, nobody else has taken the plunge.
I'm surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not that surprised. Like, I think most folks here already have pretty good sequencing setups. All right, next thing. I'm not sure I want to talk about beads on this one. I think beads could be a cool one to have some sound demos too. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it should have sound.
All right, let's skip beads. Tim's not showing up, so we're not going to talk about sad clowns for a little bit.
Damn it.
Well,
I'm looking forward to sad clowns.
I'm out then.
Well, I'm like a fanboy. I'm a fanboy of everybody that's here, right? So Hex7, Forestine, BB Talk, Robbie, and Woke. I'm just saying. Sorry. I love everything that you do, like so much. I'm just like so happy that I'm getting to see your faces as well. Like I mean that. So like I just love you guys, all of you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Right back at you.
We heart you too.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
All right. Okay, let's talk. Let's see. Yeah, let's go with genres. Yeah, let's talk about genres for a minute.
All right.
Types of music, right? Like this is something that I touch on every once in a while, but oh, never mind. We have somebody logging in. We'll just stall for a minute, but really fast. Like I'm so bad at genres. Like there's hundreds of them out there now. Like right, Spotify has like thousands of them at this point.
Yeah.
But like to me, it's like there's like heavier music and like
Well, like electronic
everything
music
else.
is just like electronic music is all techno to me. I have no idea.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to say like all the time that I just make mediocre techno, but then I know someone's going to be like, "You don't actually make."
That's not
techno."
exactly.
That's actually
techno.
mediocre. Something
Technically,
else.
and I'm like,
That's a pretty
"Come
good
on."
genre. I like mediocre techno, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I've encountered the same thing with, so like my background's really in reggae music, and to people who aren't into it, it's all just reggae, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to me, I listen to a song and I'm like, oh, that's a rock steady track. Oh, that's Lovers Rock. You know, oh, that's a Steppers beat. You know, oh, that's a dance hall track. You know,
Yeah, there's worlds.
so it's like, you know, but everybody else would be like, well, that's just reggae, and it's like, well, yeah, but they're, you know, and they're all. It's like any language. It's like just like the English language. It's like words don't have a definition. They just have a usage. So it's a matter of explaining your usage, and as long as the other person understands your usage, you can have a meaningful conversation. And they're just tools for us to communicate with each other. So I try not to get caught up on misclassifying a genre based on someone else's opinion, because it's really just an opinion. As long as we can define our terms, we can have a great conversation.
It's true.
I
I like
think
keeping
it's-
it broad.
I think it's funny how many people in modular I know that don't know anything about electronic music though, and like all of us are just lost, and like, but we're making it kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Okay.
I know almost nothing. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
look who made it.
Hey.
Sorry, I
Hello,
have
Tim's beard.
and a black eye from I was assembling a jungle gym last weekend, and a bolt snapped and shot me in the face.
That's the best. That's the best story you could come up with.
Yeah.
I would have believed you if you said you got in a fight.
So like, you're gonna let children play on this jungle gym?
See, it's, you know, I gotta teach danger. You know, without the risk, there's no learning there. You know.
Yeah.
The bolts that were going to come off already flew off, so it's safe.
It's true. You've tested it.
All right.
So anyway, sorry, don't want to interrupt the genre conversation here. This is,
No, I mean, I just wanted to say I think it's a really good take, and I think now that you put it that way, Robbie, my opinion has dramatically shifted to be more like they're technical terms, right? Like if I'm a music producer and I'm talking with somebody who's been doing reggae for a long time and I produce reggae, like you want to be on the same page when they talk about what the feeling of the sound they want. Like it helps people communicate specifically, more specifically than just reggae, right? Like, so I think that's a good take on it versus just mellow and not mellow. Anyway, Tim, last week you talked about shooting, I think I wrote it down. You said you shot an interview with Korn at their space in LA with lots of black velvet and sad clown paintings.
Yes.
I want to know more about that.
Yeah, everybody wants to know more about that.
Well, it's actually not a very exciting story, but I used to do camera work for a number of years. We shot interviews with musicians and rock bands and filmmakers, and so one time we went to Korn's studio and shot a little session, and it turns out I actually lived about a block from there. I didn't know. I'd been living there for years, and so we went. They didn't really. They were like, yeah, we don't need you, but they were, showed us around the place. They played their song and did our interview. It was Yahoo Music back when that existed.
Yahoo Music, okay.
So
Yeah,
what are we
no,
talking
but
about
Very
here?
specific.
But the thing
place
is,
and
their
time.
space was really cool. So it was like this, they had the sort of the downstairs practice space, and then upstairs there were just a bunch of different rooms, and they definitely had the clowns painted on black velvet theme throughout, and so there was definitely consistency there, and that I respected that. So
I mean, are we talking about, one wall of clowns,
No.
4 walls of clowns?
several.
Yeah.
Hallway, I think there might have been some dogs as well, but
What about sad clown dogs?
I don't remember. It was
Were they
quite
playing
some time
poker?
ago, but that would be good. So, yep, that's my that's all I can offer about you know, Korn's decor.
Korn is Korn is one of those bands that I didn't get when they were like releasing albums. I didn't understand their music, but then I went to this show, and it was, I think I went to go see Erykah Badu, but I guess Korn was opening for them because you could do that back in the day, I guess. and like I didn't really confused. But I saw them, and I when I saw them live, I got it. I was like, okay, this is impressionism, but in a rock and roll context. I get it.
Yeah.
But until I saw it live, it just didn't make sense to me.
Well, I've definitely had that experience with a number of bands. And actually, well, speaking of clowns, I was going to say a better story is when several of us went up to film a Slipknot show, and that, you know, there's the lead guy there is a clown, angry
Yeah, he
clown.
is.
And so we shot the interview, and they were, you know, kind of awesome. And they're just I don't remember the interview exactly, but we went and we set up, and I was actually way up in the rafters. This is sort of like a big space. Floor is just filled with people. I was up in the rafters, and then we had another camera operator down on the stage. And as soon as the show started up, like the audience, they were just like chucking water bottles and whatnot at us, and we were way up there, but they were, you know, getting very close. And then the camera guy on stage, the singer at one point just went over. This is back when there were tapes in the cameras, and clown jumped over and just went bam, hit the eject button, and then just mid song didn't skip a beat. And we're like, this is a very media savvy clown. Like, he's like, it's like frustrating, but we, you know, respected it. It was on point. But then like a baseball bat went flying across the stage and about half a foot from the operator, and we're like, okay, we've shot enough, so we left. But yeah, I've been in a couple situations like that as well. There was a show in Boston where the second the show started, it was just like everyone's just like beer, and threw the beer at the ceiling, and are just like ducking.
I don't know why that strikes me as a very Boston thing, but I can imagine that.
What would you say is more dangerous, a Slipknot concert or that playset you put together?
That's a good question. Actually, sustained more damage from the playset, but yep. I don't know. The manual said tighten all the way, tighten fully, so I did, and that bolt, not a quality bolt, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that before. I've never had that result. Usually, I just like break the bolt and I'm
break the bolt.
Now I have to.
Yeah, well, this was the last one. This was a climbing dome, and this was the last one right in the middle. So there was like all the tension of the dome. There were like 5 different points coming out of this, and everything was on this one bolt. So it was just all the tension pulling. Yeah.
Yes, the keystone bolt.
Exactly, and it just.
It's a load-bearing bolt.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm glad it wasn't like, you know, a centimeter higher.
Yeah, it was a little harrowing. So.
Yeah.
All right. Alex, do you have to take off? Are you still with us?
No, I will. I have to apologize, but just on the genre side of things, on the reggae, I'm going to encourage you to have a little further exploration on that conversation. Like, I'm not like a genre categorist or whatever, but on the topic of like reggae, like I do understand when somebody says dance hall versus Brixton versus this and the other. Like in my head, like I do understand those differences. I don't get disappointed if somebody miscategorizes that. It's not like, oh, well, you said this and that's what you meant or whatever. But like even reggae, because of the history and makeup, just like a 2 connectivity point. I find it interesting, almost like from a etymological standpoint. What are the seeds and what are the reasons for a certain genre became? Those genres what are my kids going to
Is Alex turning into a robot for anybody
Oh, I'm
else?
so glad you
It does
asked that
kind of
because I just
sound like
assumed
that.
it was me.
Yeah, his wind up thing needs to be wound.
Yeah, you need to crank your phone a little bit more.
All right.
We
Good
lost
night,
you,
all.
Alex.
I was going to say, like, when you
Alex.
appeared in with like no lighting, I was like, he's back in witness protection, but audio works too.
All right, we've got sound unit, autograph, Adrian. Who else? Brian. Welcome. Glad you're hanging out. Rumata, are you still around? I think so. Anyway, shout out to those watching. I guess we decided this week to have half the chat join, so
Why not?
It's quicker.
I think Alex brings up a good point, though. I'm happy to. I feel like I gave an opinion and everybody just agreed, but that's not very good. That's not very entertaining. Somebody's got to disagree and say, no, genres are bullshit, and here's why.
Forrestine, you're up. Tell us why genres. Where'd Forrestine go? Bartok, you're up.
Oh, genres are something I struggle with, and I think Robbie brought up a really good point. And when I was trying to think of like what those differences are, for me, it kind of comes down to like the drum and the bass, where the beats are and how they're interacting. So what I find is once you start like getting down into the nitty gritty, it doesn't matter what kind of music it is. We're talking about heavy metal, death metal, black metal, or anything. It's almost like you have to really be into that and understanding what those little nuances are. And I listen to so much music, I can't ever figure out, even if I like dedicate some time to like reggae and understanding all the differences. I'm the type of person that just kind of forgets that. So I have a struggle with defining genre and then saying, no, this is what this is. But I appreciate the people that know it and can explain it. And it's really cool. Somebody will start talking to be like, well, no, listen to this. Listen to how the drum is here compared to how it is in this song, and that's what makes it different. But I think as long as we respect each other and don't go down the path of like this is this and it has to be this and you can't call it this because it doesn't have this, then it's all good. That's kind of what I have to say.
I think it seems like, yeah, a good point there also is you're talking about the how different styles or different musicians are related, and that's, I think someone earlier mentioned that it's a good way of sort of putting a label to a certain set of elements, sort of like whatever the medium is, saying that this is has these characteristics, and you could say in terms of subgenres or where something split off and is a completely new genre, you could say sort of that's where it's sort of varied enough so that it doesn't share the same enough of the same qualities to be similar. But I think the relationship between the music is an interesting thing, because that's all music is just sort of, it's drawn, and all art really is just drawn from other things, and sort of you take something and then you interpret it and you'll make some modifications. And I think that's where when it's rigid, when it's rigid in both in terms of defending it or in terms of creating it and saying I'm doing this kind of genre, I can't do that, then it's stifling. But just in terms of being a tool for talking or for it seems like a good a good way if you're especially with theory, but also if it's sort of a shorthand, if you're creating it, you say, okay, I need this element if I'm trying to do this kind of thing. But then from there,
Well, one of the things you're bringing up, and you're kind of dancing around the point that I would want to bring up, is that they can be good or they can be bad. But what's really dangerous is when you start doing negative genreing. I don't know the right word, but like if I like genre A, in order to prove that I like genre A, that means I have to dislike genre B and C. It's like You know, okay, I remember I went to this concert in Orange County, and it was this metal band called, I think, Children of Bodom, and so like the lead singer, all he does is scream, right? He doesn't actually like sing pitches. But I can't remember if it was them or if it was another band. Yeah, but I can't remember if it was them or another band. But there was like one of the metal bands had an opera singer type guy on stage and an opera singer type girl on stage, and they were doing, you know, it was like fantasy metal. You know, it was very European, and it was really weird because some of the people, you know, you could mention that, you know, oh, I like reggae music too, and they'd be like, oh, no, I like metal. I can't like that wimpy stuff. You know, and it's like, well, that's not necessarily the case. It doesn't have to be like that. And I think that's the danger of using genres, is you can identify with one which means you have a negative identification with other genres.
I think that comes with sort of an aspect of tribalism that happens to be connected to like a genre.
Yeah, it's not really connected to music, I don't think.
Right.
It's like a scene thing, or it's weird.
Right. Well, and like also, like it's kind of helpful for finding music, but then on the other hand, stuff is never categorized right anyway. Like,
Yeah,
like
so
when
that's
I
how
would
this,
go to
this topic came up was
when I would go to like a music store back
yeah.
when people went to stores, and like everything just says alternative. Like,
And none of it's alternative anymore. People don't make alternative music anymore.
no.
Yeah, when was the last time you heard someone talk about like Stained?
Yesterday.
Actually, I have a good Stained story we can loop back to you at some point. It involves Creed.
Leave out the Creed and you got a deal.
I can't. It's too funny. But neither band looks good in this narrative. Anyway, I think Forrest and I were talking about like not knowing what genres the stuff we were making was.
Yeah, that's where this started.
You had mentioned like, was it SoundCloud or one
Yeah.
of the services that had your music on it, like gave you way off the wall genres.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Yeah, so if you don't type a genre in when you upload something to SoundCloud, it tries to guess and suggest some for you. And so I stopped doing it so that I can always see what they think it is. And so far I've had opera, contemporary jazz, classical, like chiptune. There's so many, and they're always really wrong. And it's like based on.
But if you combine them all together, they're kind of light.
Right, I like the chiptune opera.
Yeah.
Operatic chiptune,
I was just
man.
thinking some
You're
of
sitting
those-
on a gold mine.
some of those heavy drones they have an opera quality of sorts.
Well,
Squint your ears a
it's
bit.
so weird, and then I'm like trying to figure out what in the track made whatever the bot is think that. It's I don't know why it does it, but it does.
I don't know, but I'm not going to be adding a genre the next.
I'm gonna try that.
ever. Yeah. It's a fun game. Like, yeah, it's great. All right, I'm gonna circle back around to the Stained Creed story real quick because it's short. So, I remember like in high school, like Stain and Creed, like they were my jam. Like I'd been to a Stain concert that was pretty rad, but I think like years later, after Creed had broken up and gotten back together again, I found out that Creed and Stained would be playing. I think they were both playing together at the Comfort Dental Amphitheater, which is an outdoor venue. And holy crap, it was like $10 a ticket. I couldn't resist, so my buddies and I we got tickets. But like, it was so bad. It was the worst concert I've ever been to, like in my life. And I've been to like high school concerts played by high school people who are not good at instruments. Like this was worse. Anyway. And like some of the people there were really into it, like drunk. All of them were over like, I want to say 30. I think we were the youngest people in the crowd. Yeah, I definitely went to that show. That's definitely like the top two weirdest shows. The other one was like a Garth Brooks concert after like they came back, but Garth Brooks puts on a good show. It was just weird.
Yeah, he's cool. It doesn't matter how you slice it. Garth Brooks is dope.
I mean, the only way I can describe it was like, I think it was like 10 nights in a row sold out at like one of the biggest venues in Colorado, and ours, the everyone that is performing is a machine. The lighting and everything it looked like you were at like a fucking EDM Dead Mouse concert or something, but with like big green Garth Brooks money logos floating around the sky. You know, like it was insane. Anyway,
What was the last concert everybody saw?
I think Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, nice.
Rabbit in the Moon. I think I talked about this last time. It was at DEF CON, and the dude like had a grinder to his face so sparks would
Oh,
shoot.
yeah.
It was pretty cool.
The last one I had tickets to was Dolly Parton, but that was the week that everything shut down a year ago. So
I had tickets to the Black Keys over at Red Rock. And
I've never been there.
it was gonna be my first time there. I've got family up there, so I was gonna visit them and then go see the Black Keys, and it all shut down.
Yeah, that would have been a sick venue for the Black Keys. I saw Jack White perform there last time I was at
nice.
Red Rocks, and it was just that was the top concert I've ever been to, because it was there was a thunderstorm happening at the same time. And for whatever reason, Jack decided they were going to keep playing. Like their stage is completely covered in water. He's kicked off his shoes because they were too slippery. Like kept playing. I'm like, they're going to die, but this is awesome because there's like lightning happening behind them over Denver. It was cool. A+ would watch again.
I think it might have been Saul Williams at Jazz Fest, and it was really weird because the architecture people, TM, had built a box for the concert to go in that was like a shoebox made out of particle board, and they hadn't finished it by the time the show started, and so during like the intermission they were like nailing stuff to the wall still, and it was on like
Nice.
like it was like this big plywood box in like a V shape, and they had like rows of plastic church chairs. And it was the weirdest show I've ever been to. And the audience was so uncomfortable. And everyone was so uncomfortable. And there was no encore.
Oh.
And of course, like, the architecture people had, like, a statement about this venue that wasn't even done. That just made me so mad. Hate architecture people.
It's gonna be cool, we swear.
Yeah, there's, like, a whole statement about how you're supposed to experience the space. And you're like, all the glue from the plywood is, like, off-gassing. And yeah, it was also only half painted.
Oh,
And then that bolt from the dome flew.
I know, right?
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think the last one I saw was Dwight Yoakam at a casino.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. He's a monster.
All right. Next topic. How y'all feeling about like arguing a bunch?
Let's do it.
Let's not do it.
I don't think we're going to. Let's not do it.
This guy.
So yeah, there's been like a sort of meme, I think, in YouTube and online and just in the music community in general about like analog versus digital. And in my experience over the last year, I haven't seen a single person be like analog is better or digital is better. Actually, no, I've seen like Nored Blanc. I can never remember the full name, but that dude was all about the digital. But like analog versus digital, what's better? Do you care? Are they both good? What's your deal?
Well, the first thing I would say, analog filters, 10 times out of 10.
100% agree with you there. As for
I feel like this
operator-
is. I think like this is the same question as the genre question, just
yeah.
a little different.
Mhm.
Some things
like-
are better for some things, and some things are better for other things, and everything is fine.
Well, this was a big discussion I had back when I was doing camera work. like in the back at the turn of the century, it was like, when I was a cinematographer, like I shot some stuff on film, but digital was brand new, and in terms of digital video, and so I had friends who were independent filmmakers who were people who were like, there are some people who are just like diehard film only, film looks great, digital sucks, and there are other people who are like, digital's amazing, it's the only way, films, it's like, it's too expensive, it's like you can do anything, and my whole philosophy was very much, it's like, it just depends on what you're doing, like it just, there are applications where film would be impractical and you wouldn't, digital is like, you will get a better product, like documentary or something like that, or in a situation where you just need to be compact. Or if you want something that's big and sweeping, these days digital is great, but back then it's like, yeah, film looked better, and it depends on what it just depends on what you're going for, and especially with music, it's it's just
the first film I remember seeing that I remember being aware was shot entirely with digital was Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and if you go back and watch that now, especially in some of the darker areas, if you don't pay attention to the exciting, gunfight going on in the foreground and look in the dark in the background, I feel like you can almost see a little bit of some kind of digital artifacting, some kind of noise. But I feel like, that was almost 20 years ago now. So like things are a lot better now, and you can get damn good digital video for the price that a consumer can pay. So I don't know, like in terms of video and stuff, and the same thing for audio that happened 10 years before that. There's without getting too technical, and this is coming from a guy who collects a lot of records, it doesn't really sound better.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters too much. Like the biggest, like you said with the filters, the biggest thing for me is that there's not aliasing on something that shouldn't be aliasing. I guess my
is that a Tascam Porta Studio?
It's one of them. Yeah.
Well spotted.
Yeah, so I've got a filter on the SEO2, and the knob on, like, it's an analog filter, but the knob on it is an endless encoder, which means that when you're rotating it or control, actually it may not be endless, but there's aliasing to it. So when you're doing a filter sweep with resonance up, you'll hear like it sort of step the whole way, which is why I think analog filters win every time.
Yeah.
But as far as like I don't know, the Micro Freak or anything that has digital voices, like they're taking over. They're way more interesting. Wave folding, or not wave folding, wave tables and things like that just adds all sorts of tools to your sound source arsenal. So I literally don't care if the voice is analog or digital, or the mixer, because like I might be able to tell if the mixer is slightly warmer or whatever if it's analog. I've got an all analog signal path, but like it's all going to YouTube anyway, so who cares?
Well, like there's just room for like the different ones. Like you could have some analog stuff and some digital stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into
I guess
when I started.
said that already, but
Yeah, it's the mix, and that's the kind of thing with the genre. It's like it's interesting when you sort of combine different elements, and I don't know, when I started doing Eurorack, I thought, I started building pedals years ago just because I was interested in the sound of electricity, and that's an analog thing. Like how does it sound when this thing vibrates, or whatever. I thought that was interesting intellectually, and so I think that's something that a lot of people might like about analog. There's certain romanticism about it sounds warm, and of course it can, and it often does, but I thought that just intellectually I thought it was very interesting, but I also did a lot of microcontroller programming, and so when I got into it I thought, oh, this is great, I can use microcontrollers, use those that experience that I have, and then apply it to this, so I can have the analog sound sources, but I can make my own sequencers, and I can all these different things, and that was the plan. But then as soon as I started, the first time I plugged anything into the analog, the modular, I realized that there was a whole lot of electronics I needed to learn. So, actually since then I've been learning about op amps and, purely analog electronics, and I still haven't done any microcontroller, anything digital with the Eurorack. And that's the thing also, like coming into it, I was like, I'm very much against being, stuck in one thing or another. I think, it's just, if it sounds great, it sounds great. So I'm not anti-digital at all. But that said, I do find that I really love the analogness of it, but I think that's more about the application of it. It's not necessarily the fact that it is analog. It's just that those things happen to be fuzzier. Like, the last week's discussion of like the no control, how there's there's no quantization here. It's like, it's like you have to just finely tune it, to get the note you want, and it's just going to be fuzzy, and it's not, it's not precise. And that's that's something which I definitely am drawn to with that, is the imprecision of it, and that's something you definitely get with an analog signal path, is it's not perfect in a good way.
Sometimes, I think there's a scale factor there. Like, I've noticed folks with many synths, or that have had a lot of synths in their lifetime, tend to lean towards either really new modern synths or digital synths, because there is something nice about not worrying about whether it's warm or in tune. Like, it just works good to go.
Yeah.
And I think that was more at Blanc V's take on it, is you don't have to fiddle with it. Like, my MS-10 has been loaded with gremlins over the time I've had it, although it's functioning perfectly right now. But like old synths and analog stuff, they're sketchy, or can be, unless it's like a newer, like a modular Eurorack thing.
I feel like something I've heard also. Oh, sorry, was it?
You go for it. You go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, something else I've heard that's, I think, related to that is, I'm not a professional musician, but one thing I've heard or read from people who are professional musicians, like they love playing with they love all the vintage synths. So it's like, but when I actually have to do something reliably, I'll just use Ableton or whatever, because it just depends on like the speed. Like, what is the point of it? Is it the inspiration, or is it like getting something done immediately?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and I don't think. Well, I don't know if I'll ever like tour or play in public, but there's like a touring aspect. Like, if you're bringing gear on tour, it needs to be fairly durable. Like, that's the whole reason that a lot of the modules behind me exist, is that Sam Bartle, the Look Mom No Computer guy, was like really tired of like, it had happened so many times the audience thought him fixing stuff on stage was part of the show. Like, he was like, all right, it's
it is
like,
now.
Yeah. It's like, it's time to make some PCBs so that like the taped together things aren't falling apart every time he transports it and stuff like that.
Well, that's like I mentioned earlier, somewhere on the Discord, I have this noise toy. I just got a battery for it, so there's this little Loud Objects noise toy, and this group, Loud Objects, they played in New York years ago, and they would solder together circuits, like noise circuits live. Like, so there was live circuits that they'd solder together on stage. So different things would happen as they built the circuit, and it was done on an overhead projector, and so. Oh, wow. Part of the whole, fixing it as performance, as long as you have some sound coming out,
The analog version of like I've seen performances where people have done effectively the same thing, but like coding the music into existence, right? like it's the same thing. You're like watching somebody on screen like code, or in your case solder some stuff together, but like it requires a very specific audience, I think.
Yes, you have to understand what's happening.
Wow. That reminds me of that this documentary I watched of this guy Dick Prenicky, who amateur filmmaker and outdoorsman, and he got dropped off in the wilderness of Alaska with only his tool heads and a camera, and he filmed himself building handles for his tools and building his log cabin and and you could kind of watch it all happen through his documentary filmmaking. It's kind of building your tools as you go.
Like,
Right.
yeah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. Like, it's one thing if it's entertaining, I guess, but I don't know. Like, if I wanted to like play a synthesizer like that, you'd have to sit through like 10 hours of me soldering before you heard it good.
And then what if it didn't work?
Of course it wouldn't work. I mean,
The troubleshooting.
Yeah.
it's already like sketchy enough to get it to work when there's not an audience, but the second you've got a camera rolling,
Yeah, watching somebody with a multimeter test every solder joint for like 20
Yes.
minutes, not
Yeah.
exciting as it turns out.
It's pretty relaxing though.
yeah, I've done it before. It's actually not a bad thing to do while you're working if you have the luxury of working from home. Like, just put on some headphones, throw them up on a corner of your screen, and like keep doing your job. Like, I don't know. I suspect that's where a lot of the people watching some of our modular videos come from. I feel like they're either working or hanging out next to a computer.
Yeah.
Hey, Hex 7, let me ask you a question. This is kind of a different topic.
Yeah, let's shift.
But let's shift. Earlier you had mentioned a thing at DEF CON. So I go to DEF CON too. And I had some friends. That well, I didn't go this year because it was a Discord chat.
Right.
But I had some friends that some hacker friends, and they're like, they see my modular stuff, and they're like, man, you should perform at DEF CON. That'd be awesome. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I never thought about it before. And they're like, oh, well, the call for everything is open. You should apply. And I said, well, how long do DJs normally go for? And they're like, well, 3 to 5 hours. And I was like, fuck that. I can't go more than 1 hour with my module without taking 2 hours in between to repatch. So my question is, and this is for everybody, can you imagine it ever being possible for you to realistically do like 2 hours or more of something interesting?
Oh, that last part's
something interesting.
Something interesting. Like, yeah. Oh. No.
To others.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, and I think I have in the past. I don't think it's like top notch. Like, I probably wouldn't go to DEF CON, but like I did stream for like 6 hours on election day because I didn't want to watch the election like nonstop. So like there's that. But I think I have daydreams about playing at something like DEF CON, right? Like, I think about it every once in a while, and I think it would be doable. You would need almost to like write an entire set for DEF CON, because in my case, I'm not going to bring every single synth I have with me on the road. I would probably bring like those 2 cases, maybe the stupid speaker one because it looks cool. It doesn't do anything like most of the time because I don't plug anything into it. But like, I'd bring like an MS-10 and like my pyramid and a drum machine. Like, that would be, I think, what I would go with, and I think you could get a lot out of that. You'd have to design it so that your modular can do a lot of interesting things, like performable things. So like cranking up the LFO to get some vibrato, and like not like the usual modular self-patching things, I think, but like things that you can perform with, because you've got to keep them entertained for 2 to 3 hours, right? And a lot of that has more to do with you than any of the instruments you have. So I think it would be possible. It would require just a lot of work to do, I think.
I think for me it would have to be some kind of people watching me live patch situation where I'm unplugging stuff and then doing something else. So they would have to be especially boring people.
Yeah, I mean, but to your point, we've both been to DEF CON. I was at last year's and the year before, and a couple of years. Like, I've been to them every year for the last few years, although this one hardly counts. And the last one had Rabbit in the Moon, and like the last in-person one had Rabbit in the Moon, and like all sorts of DJs. Like, there was something like a handful of rooms that all had different sort of DJs and sets going on at the same time, with sort of a main concert venue as well, where like the bigger names performed. And I drank a lot of beer and watered through a lot of those, and I gotta say, like, not all of it was very good. Like,
so there's that.
No, really, a lot of the stuff you're doing is pretty good. Like, it's one thing if you're playing a bad performance on a modular, like it's a fucking instrument that nobody has seen before, really. Like, maybe they have, but like, it's a conversation piece before you even make noise with it, right? Like, you get a little bit of leeway from that, versus like a DJ who's playing like a song that's just not hitting, like, people just walk out, right? Like, you've got sort of an edge. So I think it's totally doable. You would just need to
and
really...
if you have a transient audience, if people are going in and out, then you could just do the same thing for 3 hours.
Now, I think what would be the easiest way to do it would actually be to pair up. So, like,
that would be helpful.
Stuff, you bring your stuff, Robbie, and because like there's
You switch
transition
off back
time
and forth.
that would be really nice between songs. So while you're jamming on a set, I can like repatch a few things and like set up, like load up the song, and then I play mine. When you're done with yours, like we go back and forth, sort of a thing.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was going to cut in and say, if I was to do something like that, I'd look to pair up with some, at least another person, but 3 people. You can totally have a setup, and it's kind of like Mott's. I don't know if you guys have performed at Modular on the Spot, but or if you've heard of Modular on the Spot, I check it out. Unfortunately, it hasn't been possible for the past year. But Modular on the Spot is an organization where they go out and they meet somewhere, and they typically have a few people that will come and perform, and everybody's got their setup and spends 20 to 30 minutes performing, and then you switch to another person, and then they do their set. So I would do something like that for sure.
I think
but for long sets, just to expand on that, because I think the longest I've done is 25, maybe 30 minutes. And the key for me on that is having your sequences set up beforehand. And I do some patching, but I try to set it up where I've got my voices down, and I'm relying more on my sequences and my filters and the LFOs to do those modulation changes to allow me to expand those patterns. So that's kind of the key, and being able to have a device that allows you to have some sequence running, then maybe switch off to a different sequence where you can make some of the patch changes during kind of like that break, and then bring over to another sequence with those new patches. And that's kind of how I would see myself being able to expand it past the 30-minute mark. But I think that's, I'm definitely not there yet, and that's kind of a goal, but that's how I would try to plan it.
Yeah,
I've gotten that have lots of sequences advice a bunch of times when I've asked people, like, how do you make a longer set? And, like, I'm really ambivalent about sequencers, and a lot of times I don't use a sequence at all. So I'm always like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and
just doesn't feel like, I don't know.
And just having a sequence, like if you have like 20 different sequences programmed, and let's say they're complex, multi-part sequences, you got 20 of them in a row. If you never change your patch, it's going to be these same 4 sounds getting different notes put through them. That's kind of, why are you using a modular synthesizer at that point?
Well, and I keep thinking, like, I would probably rather change like the actual timbre of the sound than the notes that are happening.
Boom.
But yeah.
Right. And I think there's merit to both of those, and I use both of those techniques regularly. Like, I don't really like to start a stream unless I have like either a bass line or a melodic riff of some sort, and probably drums, although drums at this point are easier to improvise without having to hear them. Like, I'm familiar enough with the drum machine and the sequencer where I can sort of mute it, program it in, and then hit go on that sequence. But like, like this patch I have right now is like sort of a test patch because I'm playing around with this filter and just doing weird stuff with it. But like, it's set up in a way where I could get a really huge variety of sounds without pulling or plugging in wires. And I think, that helps to keep the show things changing. Like I can flip a switch and all of a sudden that like melodic line is now like this hard hitting distorted thing, or I flip another switch and it turns into a metallic, more industrial sound. Like you can do some stuff like that, and I think the timbre changes that you do really help. Like just bring the sounds more alive. Like every once in a while happy accidents happen, or you do things intentionally, which is not usually me, where you can feel like you're lifted up a little bit just because of a timbre change.
I think so there's some of the, this isn't necessarily related to the longer set, but something which you're talking about with just the modular, and we were talking about with live patching or anything like that, where it's just the audience understanding what's going on. That's something that I've definitely been been interested in, and I think probably a lot of people are interested in that. My on stage experience has been more on the video side of things. I played in a band in college and in high school, but in more recent years, when I was in New York, I did video projections with a band for a number of years, and we went to a couple of festivals, and so I was on stage a lot of the time, and I had a keyboard a lot of the time, and this is how all my microcontroller work is. I built various controllers and things that you could turn knobs and whatnot that would affect video projections, and I had cameras and projectors and all that sort of stuff. But that was something which I definitely was interested in, is like, because people don't know what's going on, if it's just a box, and you're just doing something, then it's just a matter of like communicating to people that something that that you are actually doing something, and that there is some risk because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's something which you can have a completely controlled set, and the set can be completely planned out, or you can have something where you're patching and you don't know where it's going to go. So I guess that's the question: is if the audience knows that that's what's happening as well. If it's a modular audience, they understand that that you also don't know where it's going to go, then there's there's sort of more excitement to it when it goes right. And so I guess that's the question, is then how to is that something, but can you sustain that over 2 hours or 6 hours or something like that? That's tricky. But I guess that's the thing. It's like if you're like building your module and you're like doing the multimeter, I guess it's just that's then on you to say, like, to act really big, like it's going right, or no, throw the multimeter across the stage.
Right. I also want to talk just briefly, sort of tangential on this, on like my opinion as to what should be seen on stage, right? Like a lot of modular performances I've seen recorded, or like at talks, or there was one really cool one at like a Seattle meetup of some sort. They tend to have their Euro rack on its back, facing towards the performer, and the performer's facing the audience. And so that means that all the audience can see are just a few wires sticking up. They can't see any controls. And on the other hand, I've seen some performers like, actually, if you look at any of the YouTube performers that are doing modular, it's very rare that you can see their face. If you can see their face, maybe they have a mirror set up or a second camera, right? Like, the audience, I think, is going to be more interested in this than me making like an angry face while doing some mysterious stuff. Like, I think that's one of the things that's weird about DJing, is you can't really like see what they're doing, so it doesn't like hit as hard unless they're like they're going to do a huge drop and they do some big like performative body gesture to let you know that something's about to change. I think if you're going to be on stage, like you're at a DEF CON or whatever, I think the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to have the modules like facing out towards the audience, so you as a performer are actually facing away from the audience a significant amount of the time.
That brings up something that I always find is I've only performed live a handful of times, but I've gone and seen a lot of people. And one thing I've tried to do is be thinking that they don't want to see me staring down, just like I don't want to see somebody staring down. So one thing I try to do is look up, try to engage, try to see how people are feeling things out, and that also kind of helps me knowing, like Robbie, on what sequence I'm on, and if that's like actually hitting, or if it's a total miss and I should go back to something else, or if I'm doing a filter sweep and people seem to be digging that, I'll do that a little more. But I think that's something that we need to remember as performers is the audience and what they're seeing, and try to interact with them if we're giving them our face. If we're giving them our modules, then just that's great. Make sure they can see that, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking at the chat, but I think, like, before What the Heck started, like, Forrestine and I hanging out with Tito's Alex was a pretty fun night, because he was interacting with the audience, us, and we were able to contribute back. So I think it's the most fun for me when I get to, like, look at the chat. And, like, Magpie Fest was super bomb because I saw there was a clap meter, and, like, every time I glanced at chat from the second I started to the end of my set, like, it was just going so fast that I couldn't read it, and it just is, like, hard to not laugh, but it it gets you fired up, and you're doing some good stuff. So, like, I'm all about, like, looking towards the audience, whether it's a chat box or my dog, I guess. That was, like, the saddest sentence.
Sense for these days, these times.
Anyway, I think that you'd, like, yeah, it would be really important that you had, like, a good set, and B, like, the ability to interact with the audience well, keep them fired up and attentive. And if something breaks, make a show of it, like make it fun for everybody.
I mean, yeah. Speaking of, seeing high school bands, that's what I mean. To this day, like I think one of the greatest moments that I remember live is there was this guitar player in my high school who was he was great, and he's a professional guitar player now. He's a great guitar player, but I remember he was jamming something, and it was some high school battle of the bands thing. He broke a string during his solo and changed it and tuned it and turned it, as part of the solo, like out playing live, and it was just, I'll always remember that. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. It's pretty brave.
It is. But he was doing something weird anyway. But yeah.
Well, that's how you broke the string.
Yes.
I have a boring I broke a string story. I was a principal cellist in the orchestra, and we were playing a performance, and in the middle of it, my A string popped. And so I kind of had to finish the piece that we were doing with just 3 strings, which means playing really high up on another string to compensate. And then once we finished that song, conductor looked at me and gave me the nod, and I just snuck out and went to change it backstage. Probably would have been a little more interrupting if I did that on stage.
Yes. Again, that's a genre. It depends on the genre,
There you go. We're back to the genre.
Right. I was gonna say one other thing with like a long performance, like that's something. A lot of it is, genre can help with like audience expectations, and that can be helpful. And it's great when you twist people's expectations, but it's the kind of thing where I've been to a show in New York where it was like 6 hours of microtonal drone. And if you're not expecting 6 hours of microtonal drone, it's not
6 hours.
Yeah, most people don't stay there the entire time. Some people do, and you know who those people are. I made it for like 2.5, I think, at one point.
That's just oppressive. That's like.
But it's great. No, but it's the kind of thing where it's one of those. But it's one of those experiences where it's like, it's kind of interesting, and then it gets old, and then it's like you want to ram your head against the wall, and then you break through to this other, like at some point, like maybe an hour in, you're just like you're at another level.
Yeah, that's the ecstasy kicking in.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah.
All right.
We've got a bunch of people in the chat that don't know what's going on.
We are all in a band, by the way.
This is.
You can follow us on Earth Modular Society on YouTube, and you'll see us play one at a time over 6 months.
Yeah, for those that are new, we have this thing where we share. We have a YouTube channel that we all share, and in fact, it's not just us. It's like we're almost at 500 people now. Although not everybody's streaming all the time,
Yeah.
but we all do modular synthesizer stuff. Some analog, some digital, but we all share a channel and we all stream, perform for each other, and create new sounds and use established old sounds and create music and explore soundscapes. Like I'm
And
sounding
pretty
like a
much
hippie
any
now.
genre you can think of.
So there's always room for you too.
Minilog, that's a great synth
Oh, yeah.
to start with. That's an amazing synthesizer. Is it the XD or is it the regular Minilog? Actually, it doesn't matter. It's still amazing. One of my top favorites. Regular, sick, cool. All right, I think we've been going for a little over an hour, and I'm starting to fade a little bit. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any burning topics? I really enjoyed the how would you do a 2-hour performance with modular question. I'm going to be thinking about that for the next few days, I think.
When
Def-
we were
DEFCON 27 or 28 or whatever the hell.
Yeah,
Let's team up.
I'm in.
yeah.
when
Yeah.
EMS first started and we were trying to all do as long of a stream as possible, I would just take a break and then I would come back and depatch and start doing something else. But tell us funny stories. Like, where did you come from?
You missed the clown, the corn
We're
practice
literally-
space
yeah.
clown.
I saw this
on-
chat here. I didn't
Rewind
realize it was
45
actual.
minutes.
Yeah, you should have been here at the
We
beginning.
talked
man.
about
Yeah.
clowns. We talked about
Clown
Creed,
velvet
we
painting,
talked
sad
about-
clowns.
Yeah.
Stained and
stories.
Slipknot and all of that. Weird.
Corn.
6-hour microtonal drone isn't hilarious.
It was wide ranging and
This guy got punched in the face by a playset. Like,
Yeah.
come on. This is a party.
Mhm.
Where were you? All right.
I can't imagine stumbling onto someone's like boring conversation about a very niche topic like this. Like,
I'm so sorry. If you just randomly showed up and you didn't know what you were in for, yeah, this isn't the party you were hoping for. I mean, I could play some like, I don't know, like some party music, I guess, for like a minute.
Yeah, play it and we'll dance to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Whoa, man. Woo.
Yeah, we can party. Screw you.
See, my setup lacks a button that can do that. That's
Yeah, I need that button.
You need that button.
What other synths can you recommend me for ambient and Sybient music? Oh, let's try this thing. I've never tried that.
Oh,
Boom!
yeah.
There's questions on the screen.
Nice.
That's sexy. I like that.
I need a phone a friend.
You need to phone a friend. For ambient and Sybient like music, I would say look for things that have more than one oscillator that can interplay, and actually the microfreak would be a good one too. With some reverb, you can do.
I was gonna say lots and lots and lots of reverb, and anything is ambient.
Pads,
Yeah.
reverbs, like yeah, you just want reverb. Like get a reverb pedal, and just about any synth can be that way. Maybe a delay pedal as well.
Yeah, something with
They don't do
pads.
pedals like modules. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're all around here. We're all very modular synthesizers, so we tend not to talk about. Although some of us have them, obviously, but we tend not to talk about all-in-one synthesizers with a keyboard like Hex 7 is showing right now. We tend to talk a lot about individual modules. These are individual capabilities that you have to string together in clever ways to create a capability. Yeah, you have to use these patch cables. That's kind of what our big thing is. And there's a module called Clouds that's like the starter kit for making ambient.
The person that says, "Is it better to have pedals?" You can get cheap pedals that are awesome, and you should do that probably.
Yeah,
They're less
right.
expensive and sometimes better.
Yeah. I got one that for like $20 off eBay that is the Demon Tube Screamer, and it is not even very square. It's pretty great.
Yeah,
so-
the reason, the thing about the Eurorack, wait, I haven't screwed all these in, I shouldn't pull this up, is that it all fits in a box, and so you can bring it someplace.
Yeah. But pedals are cool.
Yeah, you can think of pedals as just like, or think of Eurorack as a bunch of pedals that sort of play nicely together. You're just plugging things into another to either create signal chain or effects or whatever. But I think pedals are great because they're inexpensive ways to dramatically alter the sound you're getting. So like go to Simon the Magpie's channel. He's been using a crap ton of pedals so that like every single thing that he attaches to a bass sounds interesting. Like the bass isn't interesting, so he uses some crazy pedal. But like delay, like there's some go-tos like delays and reverbs are pretty solid. And then there's fun ones like distortions and bit crushers and things like that.
Wait, I don't have autofocus. I was gonna say, I'm like, no matter how, I'm never gonna get rid of this. I'm actually thinking about building a module, which is basically just a box to put this inside the case, because this is a analog delay pedal that I love.
Yeah, but you have to don't you have to boost the level or bring down the level to make it play nicely with the Eurorack stuff?
Which is what the
lunchbox. Look at that. Look at that lunchbox.
This is my ins and outs lunchbox.
Glorious.
But here's I've got 2 of these, and I've got one more I'm building of the AI synthesis AI 006, which is basically it's just an attenuator on the top to make it quieter, because all the Eurorack stuff is way too loud for pedals. And then the bottom part's an amplifier when on the way back in, so it's a send and return, which just makes it quieter and makes it louder, which is actually really useful. I use it just as a, if I need to make something louder or quieter without leaving the pedal. So, but actually, this is pretty forgiving. So I was using it for a long time without realizing I should probably do something to make it better. But I have other ones that I built myself, which sounded terrible until I realized that I could actually make them sound better.
I'm going to interrupt because there's a really good question in the YouTube chat from Brian. Brian was asking, what's the best way to deal with varying hot signals inside of a rack? My mixer gets washed sometimes randomly. This is a question I don't have any experience with this, so welcome all y'all's opinions on this.
That's why God invented the compressor. I mean, I actually have 2 compressors in my rack now. One that I use, one that I abuse for making bass sounds really, really stupid, and then one that I use in like a normal person way, and I just kind of use it to keep sounds from getting too crazy hot. But yeah, compressors are awesome for that. There's a 2 HP one that's pretty good. From the company 2HP, and then there's a 4 HP one from SSF, I think. It's really great.
I used WMD Muscle. I've got 2 of those. One for bass and drums, so I can do a little, ducking on that one, and then another one just for the other voices.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but could you also use I've got a quad VCA mixer with switching individual outs where I could put a signal in, turn the amplitude way down, and then pull it out of it much quieter. Is that something that would also work in this situation?
Just attenuating?
Yeah, basically just attenuating. I guess an attenuator would work. My brain's not good.
The top half of the that AI 006 module I was just saying is make things quieter. But if you're talking about riding the level or just having it control itself, I definitely would like to get a compressor. I don't have one.
Right. For me, it was most because I had a lot of mixers. I was attenuating, but I was finding when I would bring them all together, all the different voices to my final mix before I go out, some of them would I just had struggled with the levels, and that's really where the compressor really helped me kind of dial that in and stop the clipping from some voices, and it really cleaned up the sound. Where the attenuators, I just felt like I didn't. No matter what I tried and what levels I set them at, I was still struggling with the overall sound.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it for where I've really cranked the settings to rather extreme settings, so I'm really crushing the dynamic range of the sound. But what it does is like I have like a sound going into it, but I have a filter, and I can filter it either extremely, or I can really open up the filter. And as you know, when you clamp down the filter, sometimes the amplitude goes down and things get a lot quieter. But if you have it really hot going into the compressor and it's compressing the shit out of it, then the output is kind of one volume, whether it's completely filtered or open wide, and that's can be kind of a neat effect. It really changes the how the audio feels.
Yeah, I've been having fun. I just got the speaking of, I see SSF there mentioned in the chat. I just got the vortices and the ins and outs lunchbox, and that's been great because then it just crank it and it gets all saturated and distorted, and it's all, you know, mangled, but in a pleasing analog way. I just wanted to say, just I just wanted to show.
Yeah, show off, man. I want to see this.
This is the latest thing that I just got.
It is tiny.
It is tiny.
It's so cute.
It's the Bastille Castle.
Bastille Castle.
It's digital. It is. I've been planning on building something. The little chip they have two of these in here. This one that I've been programming since before getting into modular. And I was like, I'm going to build my own little modular. And then this is exactly what not exactly. This is far better than anything I would have come up with. Anyway, years ago, I've been wanting one of these, and they've been sold out everywhere for years. And sure, I could pre-order, but I thought it was a game. Every time I'd go onto any synth site, I'd check to see if it was in stock, and it's never been in stock. And in fact, a little over a year ago, right before the pandemic, I was at work one time, got the back in stock notification at Perfect Circuit. It's working 15 minutes away. Hopped in the car, went up, it was gone. So since then I've just been like, yeah, sure. They were like, yeah, well, it's pre-ordered, pre-order. But anyway, I've been going on. Finally, last week for the first time, I was like, it's just sort of like this thing I do every time I order something. I'm like, and is the Bastille in stock? Nope, Castle. And it was, so I got it, and it is awesome. It has an LFO, it has a little oscillator, and it just makes weird sounds, and you twist it around, you don't know what it's going to do, and I'm sure people who have more experience with it will know what it will do. Anyway, it's been fun. So that's what this case. I've been built this pod just now. This is for this, so it's going to go into here. Yeah. And I'm actually working on this set. It's going to be a drone. It's going to be a set that'll be. I'm not sure whether it's going to be 20 minutes or an hour. It's going to need some visual. 2 hours. I'm going to go 6 hours. 6 hours. No, but it's definitely going to need some visuals. But I was playing with this the other day with just this. Speaking of pedals, and I like the simplicity of it because a lot of people who play with something like this or the little Korgs or anything like that will just have a number of just a couple small devices on the table, and so this I actually was doing this making some sounds into the analog delay pedal, which was giving us some sort of since I don't have a reverb pedal that I really like. And then into the looper, and so I'd create some sort of sound, some pattern, because this can do some really cool sort of patterns, and then so get the pattern in, and then go from there and just add something. That was fun, but this is basically the same function as those pedals, only significantly cooler. So the setup
that's
I've
the
got
Akari, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to go into the Akari because it's this is a filter which can make it sound awesome. So it's just adding, speaking of analog filters, so it's going to be this little digital voice going into the analog filter, which is a stereo filter, and it's by the same company.
And it's amazing.
So it sounds really cool. And then that goes into then the mimeophone, which is a delay or a looper depending on how long the delay is. And so this is where you can, I'll build up, textures to then layer on, because I think this thing sounds really nice when you sort of layer on top of it. Or you can also then make it weird. And then the monsoon, which is the clouds, it's a variant of that. And I've actually never used it in reverb mode before, but it's now in reverb mode just for reverb.
It's so cool.
It's great. And then cool. The XOH, which is just a line level. It's an output, which brings things down. Speaking of getting things to the right level, this is designed to then bring modular level, which is super hot, anywhere from 5 to 8 or so volts, down to line level, which is just, I don't know, a volt or something. I don't know exactly.
1.2, I think.
1.2, yeah. I had a whole great chart once, but yeah, exactly. So anyway, this brings it down. So that's the whole setup. And then this, which I've been having trouble with, I had to do some tweaking. This is a dope for 5 volt out, and when I plugged it in, everything else died. But fortunately, that was temporary. There was the plug that they sent with it, something's wrong with it, so I'm just bypassing that. And then this blank space will be, it's in the mail. It's going to be a quad LFO, a dope for quad LFO, which can do, this is something I've wanted forever, and I've always thought, no, but I have other things that will do the same thing, but those other things are doing other things. And so now I want a non-clocked, I've got the clocked LFO, but I was like, no, I actually want a free running, non-clocked LFO that can go anywhere from fast to 3 minutes, 8 minutes. It can go very slow. So that's
there's something magical about the unclocked LFOs and things that just, I don't know, you get the right feel of things real quick.
Yeah, I love it.
Booster adds, but you can't fit the rack itself inside the rack, which is...
That is not true. I have a rack inside of my rack. Here.
That's true. That's true. There's proof right there.
Boom. Right here. You're a rack inside of a rack. Got you covered. All right. I want to talk about the Bastille Drum because you got me so fired up about the Castle.
I gotta go, guys.
Later. Thanks for dropping in.
It's nice to see y'all.
Yeah. Have a good life.
We'll have fewer people on next time.
I'll probably be patching later on, so
okay.
Maybe I'll see you later.
Good.
I hope so. Yeah, the Bastille Drum is something I'm super fired up about. Like, I already love Bastille standalone instruments, and it takes all of the willpower to not just buy every little standalone synth thing that they make, which is why I don't have the Castle or the Micro Granny yet. But the drum is calling my name right now because of sort of what you said earlier with the Castle, where you can come up with these just unexpected or almost unpredictable patterns really quickly, record them into a looper or whatever, and then you're off to the races. Like, it's super cool.
So I guess that goes against what I was just, when I was holding up the no control, saying, well, the analog is nice because it's fuzzy and unpredictable, because it doesn't matter whether it's analog or digital, because it's just the layout, it's the interface,
Right, it's the design of it, and I don't know if Casper Electronics is involved with with those particular two, but the Bit Ranger and the Soft Pop are like some of my favorite things to use because they're so you don't go into it with an idea and make that thing. Like, you can, but it's more like you go in, do a little experimenting, and all of a sudden a sound or a song or whatever emerges that you're like, oh, that's cool, let's keep going. Yeah. So I love those types of instruments. That's why I have that whole collection of weird stuff that no one will be able to see because I'm a square.
How many cameras do you have set up right now?
4.
Whoa!
God, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
This whole setup, like this, and this, are just unpredictable, weird little things that are rarely streamed because they're not really modular. And well,
they are kind of,
sorta, but like I would say, like, with those, 20% of the time I find them really pleasing, and then 80% of the time I'm working to make them really pleasing to me. Like, the Bit Ranger doesn't have a filter, which means I have to like pipe it through other stuff to make it less angry. All right. Yeah, I have 4 cameras because I can't stop getting cameras, but I think I'm good now. Well, the problem was like I wanted an overhead camera so like I could see like show what I'm doing like that, and I wanted something that can show the synth where it's not just like my back the whole time. Or
That's
like,
nice.
The
Yeah.
idea was that it would be clear enough that you would be able to read the names on it, but I'm not sure that worked out because I cheaped out on the camera. But whatever. And then the other was a cheap webcam pointed at the oscilloscope pretty much at all times.
I had a quick question about that format there. You were talking about it last week. Is that something that Sam Look Mom No Computer came up with, or is that just one that he uses?
Good question. No, he did not come up with it. It's one he used, gave it a name, Cosmo. It's metric 5U. Other performers have done it. It's... I don't
Oh, but he named it that, though?
Well, that's his name for it, yeah. And that's
right.
Because most of mine are Cosmo modules, the form I hang on. People are making Cosmo module. Like, that's just the name that caught on with me. So, I think other folks would refer to it as metric 5U.
Right.
And I don't know of many other folks besides like Sam and the people on the forums doing it. So, but I haven't looked.
So are all of your modules his design, or did you?
No. There's actually a really good mix. So like, the core modules are like I wanted like a basic synthesizer, so I have oscillators, filter, like delays and ADSRs and stuff. But like the stutter dial is mine. The rat filter is mine. I have some from C-Torp down here that are like utility modules. I have a bunch more of those. Analog Output has made these like ears modules, so I built those. Those are some of my favorites, like the one the door stopper's on and that I flick. And I have a few more that I'll probably be building this weekend because I finally have this like time to do it. But I do have quite a range of other modules. Like a lot of folks have made them, and I collect them for 2 reasons. One, they add functionality, and 2, it's sort of like collecting like very unique art pieces from like people I like. So
yeah,
it's cool. He doesn't sell kits, Adrian. He sells the PCBs, and occasionally with some of the ones that have harder to get ICs, they'll be bundled with them. Like if they're Electric Druid ICs, he started bundling with those with the PCBs to make it a little bit easier, so you're not waiting for like a package from Europe from him and from this other vendor in Europe that are the only places you can get them. So anyway, that's yeah. Let's call it. I think we're all running out of steam. It's been a great episode. We went from 6 to 7 to 5 folks. Bar Talk is awesome. Great. See you, Robbie.
We can only see you right now.
Forrestine. Oh my gosh, you gotta tell me when I'm finished.
Yeah, okay, now we're back.
Hey.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I loved it. You guys are awesome. What a great community to be a part of. And are you going to play us out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play us out.
Yeah, play us out.
Let me drink my beer. Thank you, drink.
Yeah, I'll play us out. We think camera on, or do you want me to do the this?
Put on the silly scope.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
There we go.
Let's do this. Oh.
Ooh. Final boss music right here.
Haunted drainage culvert.
Oh, that too.
Ooh, Sky.